participated in the search, as you know, for the guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Mr. Cole, you've been, I mean, you ran the place. This room is named after you. You've actually been on the board for how long?
I've been there 4 years.
4 years, okay. All right, and then we've got Ms. George virtually. You want to tell us who you are?
Sure, yes, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Yvette George. I am currently the HR director for Henrico County. I do want to say that I did have an opportunity to speak with Mary Martin Selby. She's not going to be able to attend today. She had an emergency that she had to deal with. And I have not spoken with Mona, but we attended, all three of us were at the last meeting. So I do remember some of your faces.
Well, thank you. I think Mr. Dillard told me that there may be just one person as a contact or something, but can
That's
you?
me.
That's you?
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so Mr. Kent, we're going to just turn the floor over to you,
Okay.
and you just share your presentation.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank all of you.
Oh,
for
I'm
the
sorry. I'm
opportunity.
sorry. We have others in the room. I just introduced the people at the table, so I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm Diana Moore-Clark with the Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility for the City of Richmond.
Wonderful.
And you got
Joe Dillard, we spoke by phone. I'm the staff liaison to this personnel committee, and deal with legislative policy and equitable innovation here at GRTC.
Excellent.
Dexter Rich, IT Director, monitoring the technology stream.
I always wanted to have what you're doing in our meetings in DC, because inevitably something would happen and they'd be searching for you. So Richmond is one step ahead. That's great. Appreciate that. Okay. Right. So I want to just say again, we really appreciate the opportunity to work for you. We do transit recruitment at the executive level throughout the industry. We've done over 200 searches. We have done only work in the transit profession.
Yvette, can you hear Mr. Kent?
I sure can.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. And we believe that brings an advantage, that we know the people who have held these roles, every principal in the organization. All of us have held executive positions in transit agencies. So every recruiter that you would be working with comes from that background. And I thought this presentation would just give me a structured way to show you who we are and what we intend to do on your behalf, and certainly working directly with you. So we'll head into this. KL2 Connects is now in its 15th year. The company was established by two transit CEOs, two former CEOs, Tony Koneski and Jack Leary, who are now members of the APTA Hall of Fame. And, we put that in there just basically to say that being in the Hall of Fame in the trade association means that they have national and international connections. And this, so they weren't just heads of transit agencies, but they were very active in the industry at large. When they retired from their roles in transit agencies, they said, you know what, we have so many relationships that we've built. We're believers in leadership development, succession planning. We believe we have something to offer. So we're going to set up a recruitment firm, and we're going to cater to our own industry. And that's really where KO2 got its start. So bringing support to transit agencies from transit people. And again, a lot of experience on the team. We'll show you who they are in a second. Just an example of some of the clients that we work for. So as you can see, a lot of public agencies. That's just a sampling. As again, 200 searches. So we'll continue on from that. This is the team. Okay, so we have 4 active principals who do the recruiting, and the rest are advisory support. And actually, one thing that I wanted to update and mention to you is that the team who's going to be working on this particular project is going to consist of myself and Al Schlim at the bottom of the page. Our CEO wants to be involved in this one personally. So the two of us will be handling the search. But
Why is that?
essentially just because of the fact that this is a very high-profile search. The GRTC system is renowned in the nation. I think that Ms. Tim's departure is definitely shining a spotlight here. That this is a place from which important things happen in transit, and unfortunately where leaders can be poached from. So our leadership feels like that this is going to be a highly visible project and an important placement. So he wanted to be part of this with me personally. I am the managing principal, so I oversee all the recruitments, all of our business development, and all of the other principals. My background is that I've been in transit for 35 years. My claim to fame is that I spent 13 years on the executive team at WMATA in DC, which some people like, and some people apologize. Gosh, you were in the political bubble there, but it's a wonderful classroom. And if you can perform good work in an environment like that, it definitely opens doors. But all of the other principals, John Bartoskowitz, Celia Cooper-Smith, Paul, Kristen, all of them have been either CEOs or executive directors of various agencies in the industry. So Al and I are fully dedicated to the search. So you will have our complete attention during this search. And in addition to that, wanted to share one thing that from my extracurricular activities. In addition to being a consultant, I'm also on the APTA board and the board of the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials. This allows me to make absolutely sure that you get a diverse pool of applicants. We know that this is one of the most important decisions that the board makes, is choosing the CEO, and we want you to feel like we gave you a real choice. And so we're able to reach into the industry through various arms and bring you those candidates. Now, our process, just briefly, is that, and I'm assuming that step one will occur today while we're talking, is that we listen very carefully to what your preferences are. So we want to know, just sort of like the way it is in national elections, what is the mood of the people? What are they looking for? Is the interest someone who is a builder? Is the organization going through a particular challenge? Is there particular leadership?
Well, I think this is actually pre-step one. And part of what you got to do is to plan a good step one.
Oh, I see.
That really gets the incoming board and also coordinates with
I see.
the HR roundtable. But we are really just kind of the setup team at this meeting, I think.
So you're really trying to accomplish this during a handoff.
Right.
So
And
it's a transitional.
he's
piece.
going to really carry the process decision into the next period so that
Understood.
the process can be well defined. But this thing that you want to do, which is really important,
Mhm.
isn't going to happen at today's meeting.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
But there are some things that you can get from us.
Yeah.
Maybe not today, but over the course of, pull together some stuff.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to wait.
No, we're not.
We don't want to
sure.
wait 30, 60 days to put it out there.
Mhm.
Whatever we can help you to do to put the job out there.
Yeah.
So that people can start so that some energy can start to flow. Yes.
Well, I will say, was there another comment?
Did you have something?
I thought I heard. Okay, so we're accustomed to this as well. The last search that I did just last month was with City Bus in Lafayette, Indiana. Same thing was happening. Board members were leaving. They wanted to make the decision while they were still in place but recognizing that new board members are going to be coming. So sometimes KL2 is asked to do a little bit more facilitation, like in this initial step. If there are stakeholders present and future who are going to be coming into the mix, whoever you ask us to speak with, or actually I should say listen to, we're going to come in and say, okay, tell us your priorities. What are your preferences? What attributes are you looking for? Because organizations need different types of leadership at different stages of their development. And we understand that. We also understand how important the surrounding community is. But the big thing that I want to emphasize is that because all of us are accustomed to working specifically with transit boards, we have a lot of familiarity of the types of issues that you would be concerned with. So it's not new, there's not really a learning curve there. And it is especially helpful when we start talking to candidates and we listen for, is there an understanding for those same things that the board members are concerned about? If we bring you a candidate, we're saying that we're going to stand by our recommendation. We don't throw people at you and hope for the best. We bring you people that are fully vetted, and I'm going to describe a little bit how we do that. Now, first of all, I want to put out there that we, as a recruiter, value diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when we do our short lists of candidates, we have an excellent track record of bringing a diverse pool of candidates. And in fact, that overstating the case, I can tell you that over the last 5 years of the CEOs that we have placed, 40% of them have been minority candidates and women. So we understand that the importance of that. And we're very proud of that. That's part of our relationship with Compto, is that we are looking for opportunities to give everybody a fair shot at these important roles. Another thing that distinguishes us is that we treat the candidates respectfully, even if they're not chosen, because we value them as assets to the industry. They may not get the job today, but they might be useful in a role in the industry in the future. And we are your interface for them. So if you tell us, nice person, but we don't think we're going with this person, we handle that side of things and make sure that they're treated accordingly and feel like they were respected in the process. And of course, as I mentioned to you before, not only do we have associations with organizations that are well connected in the industry, but that's also where we advertise. So when we're trying to attract people to the industry, one of the things that we get sometimes is people saying, well, no diverse candidates applied. And I'm saying, well, but where did you advertise for the positions? Because, they're definitely out there. So when we put the applicant pool together, what we do is we interview the candidates first. We evaluate them from the standpoint of the leadership profile that we put together based on input from you and any stakeholders that you've asked us to include. Then what we put together is a briefing book, which is basically our short list, but it's a packet that has the candidate's introduction, cover letter, resume. We include an ethics questionnaire that we give them, which basically says to them, first of all, have you ever been involved with any of the following things that we don't want you to be involved with? And then at the end we say, and if there's anything else that you want to tell us, let us know if there's anything at all in your background that if it were made public would be adverse to your future employer. And we put this out there because obviously we know that you and we don't want any surprises. So we start with that. Then we also do an exhaustive internet search as well, so that we don't have a situation where we give you a name and someone casually Googles the name and finds out a lot of adverse material. Obviously we're very mindful of the reputation of the agency being very important. So we do that legwork for you. Then we compile all of that information into a briefing book and we submit it to you. Then we take your feedback. And obviously can go in two directions. You could say, I don't want to talk to any of these people. Please continue to look, which we would do. Or you say, yes, we do want to talk with some or all of them. And then the usual step that we have done in recent searches, still being kind of on the tail end of COVID, is to arrange a Zoom, or virtual interview first, that you have a chance to speak with them and then say, okay, if this person seems promising, then maybe have them out for an in-person. That process can vary any way that you want. And I want to add, if I can, step to the third stage here, is that we've been asked to follow different processes by different boards. Okay, so we've had everything from, we want, the board said, we want all the candidates to complete an emotional intelligence test. We want to see how they present. So we want the candidate to come maybe to one of our public meetings and present, or present to the selection committee, or however you wish. But there are a number of ways to vet the candidates. We even had one that I actually thought was kind of interesting, where we set up an event the night before. They came into town for an in-person interview, and the night before we had a reception at the agency. There were 3 finalists. They all came, and they were all in the same room. And it was an opportunity for them to meet whoever the board wanted to have at that event in an informal way, and then maybe make a few remarks, 5 minutes or so, just to get a feel for the person before the structured formal interview happened the next day. Interestingly enough, it did reveal some information, and you see things like, what the candidate's personality might be like when there isn't structure, and how they engage. So there are lots of ways for you to get a comfort level with the candidates, and we want to make the process tailored to your tastes. So, this is an area that, if you have particular preferences, then we can go over that. So I understand that, the price evaluation already took place. We do try to be competitive, but we also are thorough. Fortunately, being in Virginia Beach, travel up here was not difficult for me. So I'm happy to come up when needed to support the search and interact with anyone that you'd like me to. And then finally, I'll just summarize that we work in pairs. So there are always 2 of us on every search, so that way we can divide and conquer. We also have, when I say divide and conquer, I mean some of the administrative work. We do all the interviewing and interaction with the candidates together, so that we get 2 perspectives on how everybody performs in an interview. And again, because every single one of us has been a transit executive in our careers, and as I said, in my case, I've been in transit 35 years. We know the environment, we know the industry, and frankly, because the industry is so small, we often know most of the candidates too. So we can even talk with you, about some of the things that might not be, on a resume. Just say, what is this person well regarded in the industry, and some of their, just some of their accomplishments and how they're viewed, even, by, kind of like a 360 type review of them by their peers, clients, associates in the transit world. So you get a full view of the individual before you're asked to look at them up close. And finally, we did say in our proposal, and we say what we mean, that if you are not satisfied with the work, or if the candidate doesn't stay for the first full year, we will repeat the search at no cost to you. And I have to tell you that, if that is not just a gimmick, and I will tell you that we do not look forward to repeating a search if we don't have to. So it's an incentive to us to get it right the first time. And it's also a message to the candidate that if you pursue this, that commitment is there. And if you don't keep that commitment, that's going to be looked on very unfavorably. So, we establish all of that up front. I think that's all.
How did you we approached you, I mean, what have you heard about what we're trying to do? Have you heard anything about us trying to do a hybrid model at all to involve some of our HR directors
Yes.
in this process?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand that in the region that there is, there's a mechanism, a resource that you all have to find talent that could be used to recruit, hire public sector individuals in a number of different capacities. And that I saw that in your board minutes too, that's viewed favorably as a resource because that resource knows this area, this community, and I agree with that. I think that at a minimum, that resource is a stakeholder that we should talk with and work with closely in the process. But we also, complementary to that, we bring the transit expertise and we bring the ability to go find individuals that are going to have the skill set that you're looking for. But we don't have any issue at all with having others come in and add to our understanding of the position and whatever part of the process you'd like them to play.
In fact, Yvette, and I assume what will happen is that you and she will talk in terms of just coordinating your work here, but they asked for you to support. Knowing, because she knows very well that their particular knowledge of people in particular industries that a generic HR system doesn't have. So they, Yvette, you want to say something so that I'm not speaking for you?
No, you're saying exactly right. So I completely concur, you know, and I'm assuming that I will work with you, Christian. We would constantly communicate on where we are within the process, so I can definitely keep the board abreast of what's going on. And again, there's processes and procedures that go along with local governments, et cetera, and working with GRTC that you may not be familiar with. So I would definitely be that resource that you can reach out to just to make sure we vet the candidates, get the settings set up, interviews, et cetera, done correctly.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
We don't, we usually, we only get a little bit of that in most situations. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I will be happy to talk with you anytime you have any questions in regards to processes and procedures that are outside of the board, just from a recruitment perspective. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be happy to have that conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So what's the, well, I'll open it up for questions from my colleagues. I'll start off. Well, first of all, what's the next steps? Well, no, last of all, what's the next steps? So you share that after everybody else asks the questions. What's the word in the industry now as it relates to this particular job opening? So you guys brought us Julie,
Yes.
I suspect. So clearly you were.
Well, we didn't.
It was a different agency.
We weren't
okay,
the firm
okay.
last time.
Oh, okay. So what's the buzz? What's the buzz with Julie's new position? What's the buzz with us? Et cetera.
You know, you're in a nice position. I was telling Eldridge this when I saw him outside, is there has been a long history of GRTC having leaders come through this organization and go on to run huge agencies. So, you know, the agency has a wonderful reputation. The other thing that's very, frankly, flattering about GRTC right now is that Julie has been able to go to various audiences and talk about how this system has been able to recapture ridership after the disruption from COVID, where many other agencies are really struggling with this. You know, as I mentioned to you, I worked in DC for 13 years, and you would think that in Washington, with the rail system having all those assets there and being so dense, and you know, people all kind of needing to come into DC to go to the same places, that it would be easier for them to recapture the ridership. But the truth is that DC, like many other places, has lost a lot of ridership to you know, other means of getting around, such as the, you know, Uber, Lyft, transportation network companies, And telework, of course, has become really big in many of the government offices in DC. So they have had a big challenge bringing ridership back, along with agencies all across the country. So whoever comes in here to take the CEO position is going to be walking into a bit of an advantage to be able to say, well, you know, this agency, through its own creativity and relationship with the public, has actually been able to create ways to attract people to ride transit, even when that's not happening in other places, and build upon positive momentum that's already here. And you know, your question is really insightful, because if the environment were negative, the candidates for CEO know that. It's interesting, you're going to get some people who've not been CEOs before who want to be a CEO no matter what. They just want to enter that level of leadership. And they may have more of an appetite to take on the risk, but then they're the ones with less experience. And then you have the folks who have some seasoning, who are going to look at an opportunity and say, well, I'd love to come there, except, you know, how much of a risk am I taking on my time, my reputation? You know, I think that the change that is taking place on the board here is an opportunity for the new CEO to build new relationships. And, you know, I think that's another positive thing that people see, the addition of Enrico, the fact that there is more uniform representation of the stakeholders is a real positive as well, because anybody who comes in here is certainly going to be wanting to impart a regional mindset. And you can't really do that if you don't have all the players on board. And I think you all, as a body, have been very wise to move in that type of a direction. So a sophisticated CEO candidate is going to recognize all this. And, you know, of course, the other thing too, to not overstate the obvious, is that Julie got a great opportunity out west. And I think, you know, that just seeing how an agency like Sound Transit would recruit someone from GRTC shines another bright light on the quality of this agency and the fact that this is a substantial system. So I have no doubt that there's going to be great interest in the position. And that's, you know, aside from the fact that I have some pride that it's Virginia and you're my neighbor, I'm very happy to see GRTC achieve these things. But I know that there is real interest in this job. So I don't think there's going to be any difficulty finding you a great pool.
All right, good. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Yeah, I mean, my thinking is just from having been through the process last time and actually having set it up, and also knowing where I am. My last meeting of this board is September.
Wow.
So apart from having a brief meeting to get the new board going in October. So what I'm interested in is having you think about, and you and Reverend Nelson work out what your input period is here, so that you can talk to the departing board members, talk to the new board members that are already here. We've got Pastor Nelson and two other Henrico people. We've got Lincoln Saunders, who's the CAO of the City of Richmond, who's already on the board and will then be continuing. And we've got Jim Engel, who's a member of the Chesterfield Supervisors, who's a new member of the board and going to be continuing. So we've got some good start on the continuing board, and we've got the four of us who are experienced who are leaving. Plus, we've got your senior staff here, who obviously can help you have a picture. So that initial picture getting is something that's immediate, possible. You need a strategy for it, and it helps build the base for where you're going. And that's the only piece that I'm thinking about right now.
Sure.
Is how to get that happening quickly. Before last time when we went out and hired Julie, we were really concerned at looking at a regional system and regional expansion for the first time, and also getting public interest. I mean, GRTC's level of public knowledge and interest is 10 times what it was 10 years ago.
That's great.
It's in the press all the time. People know about it. They're thinking about it. The pulse happened, all of that. And so we actually held interviews with a number of stakeholders who were not dealing with the company, just went around, got public people to be interviewed and talked. I don't think we need to do that this time around, but you know, it's what you would consider, Tara, if we were. But I unless you think so, you may want to talk to some folks in the counties and the city, but
Yeah, I don't know if there's appetite to go to that level.
yeah.
You know, and it's one thing that can influence that decision. And I know, you know, probably it may not apply here, but I dealt with this in DC, was if there were any constituents who felt like they had not been a part of the process, or if there's an issue going on with the agency that they feel they're not plugged into, and they think the new leader is going to have influence over this. You know, like, you know, one of my specialties has been working with the disability community, just as an example. And a lot of boards have advisory groups from the disability community or a citizens advisory council. If there was a sense that they had, you know, some expectation or some particular reason why they would want to be included, then some agencies have had us do that. But, you know, that's sort of kind of on the more, full throttle stakeholder vetting. It's not typical, but it's been done. I can tell you the two searches where we did the most stakeholder vetting were in Indianapolis and down in Raleigh-Durham. And we were asked to go in a number of different ways. First of all, to answer your question, I can come up and I can come up and spend a day or two, and, you know, if I can work with staff to coordinate, either I'll go to their offices, or, you know, maybe, you know, there's a way, you know, to convene small groups and talk to, you know, to whoever you have on your list. I can do that.
So the only people that occur to me outside of the circle that I talked about, which is current and future and board members and senior staff here, are maybe the 3 transportation people from their localities who are constantly involved in this. Toronto being the city, your guy, and Barb, and the other is maybe somebody at CBTA, maybe, or at the regional planning thing, because whoever comes in here is going to have to really be interfacing with the development of CBTA, where, you know, CBTA is Central Virginia Transit Authority, brand new, and we are the designated recipient of the 15% of transit money that comes through the CBTA. So that's in the bill. So it might be that a couple of conversations over there would be helpful for him.
Are they your MPO? Is that?
No, well, the staffing has been overlapped
I see.
recently.
Okay.
But
We have no, it's not.
who's the new chair?
Still the
over there?
TDO.
Okay.
I think the chair of the CBTA is Kevin Curl.
Is Kevin now?
remember.
Wouldn't hurt for you
Who
to
the
know
TDO
Kevin,
is,
know what Kevin's thinking, that is what I'm thinking. But
Yeah.
apart from that, I don't see any.
But again, I also don't want to make, there's some framework that you guys can put together so that you can begin to put the position out. Right? Or do you
Oh,
need to talk to all
absolutely.
these people before you do that?
Well, I'll say this, we can do whichever way that you prefer. The typical process, when we write an ad and we create a brochure, we do an ad and a brochure. So the advertisement is shorter, title, opportunity, the basics, click here for more detail. The link goes to a brochure, which is, okay, this is not only the position, but, you know, the greater Richmond area, you know, so that if a person is going to relocate here, you know, what is this entire environment like? So it's an opportunity for them to get those details. And then within it also is not the full job description necessarily, but it's a leadership profile that we get from all the interviews that we do. Now, if the direction from the board is, let's get something out there, then, I don't know that it's a problem to do that, because if we talk to additional people and get more feedback from them about what you're looking for, that can still be incorporated into the next steps. So, I mean, if expedience of putting something out there is important to you, we don't have to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We could put something out and get it rolling if that's what you'd like.
Well, we meet in September, so maybe if you can have something so that we can share with the board.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to meet with some of these folks prior to our September meeting, what is it, third Tuesday?
What is it? Yeah, I'm just doesn't have to take long.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, we
It's
went through
just-
an extensive, from what I understand, it seems like we went through an extensive piece with Judith.
Okay.
I don't think that we need to recreate the wheel. We need to just plug and play with some of the stuff that we've done since she's been here
Mhm.
to sell it as needed.
I do think that the new person coming in will benefit from especially the new board members having said what it is they're looking for. I think that's a part of the empowering of that person. If we don't do it,
You mean the new board members?
in particular, the new board members that we've got, well, those of you who are new right now in particular, but then depending on how the phasing works, the ones that get added, because it just really helps for folks to have had input. So. do you-
I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that anyway, but.
The thing is so different from what it was when Julie came in.
I mean, if you were to come to me 2 months before or a month before I even started serving on this board, asking me what was I looking for in an executive director, what I would have answered prior to serving on the board, getting all the information, knowing the facts and not just purely speculation. I'm not sure whether or not a new board member, a person that's not even on the board.
No, but you would be a help right now, saying what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, you can find ways to have conversations, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you wanna get with Joe, schedule some, if you're coming up for the day, seeing how many of us can come through and talk to you for 30 minutes or whatever.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's something you can do in a day or two.
That's it. You got it.
Well, and
That's what I'm talking
also to Reverend Campbell's point, you could inform the board members who are upcoming.
about. Yeah, we don't even know who they are for sure.
But if you don't know them, I mean, but I guess my point is that if the selection group tells the rest of these board members, this is what we're doing, and there is an opportunity to speak to the recruiter and share your insights, it could even be voluntary, and if they feel like Reverend Nelson does, that, that maybe it's like, well, I don't know, maybe I've not been here long enough, that'd be their decision, but at least they were invited. And I mean, I'll come and meet with anybody that you ask me.
I think you and I are on the same page, Darren. I don't see any reason to hold it up. I'm just trying to make sure we get
The
it.
environment that we're in now.
She ran an operation. She knows the nuts and bolts of transit. She was the CEO at the transit. Yeah. So she's got a wealth of knowledge. She's with the city as well. So I think she'd be a good source. Maybe you can tap into her a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, and Todd
That'd be great.
and Barb, who are her counterparts in the counties, are as knowledgeable as anybody we've got in the whole system. Todd's actually on the board.
Mhm.
And,
Why don't you do this? I'm sorry. Why don't you, were you gonna draw some notes or something from this and then send it to us?
Absolutely.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Send it to Joe, and then we can come up with just a group of people you can talk to
Very good.
over the next couple of weeks. So at least we can report that back that you've already had some initial conversations when we have our board meeting, you know, in September.
What is it? Did you get the date? 20th, all right.
Okay.
And I would assume that based upon what I've heard, that we don't want to wait, you know, if there's something that you can put out to seek interest, we don't want to wait forever to start putting it out there and letting people send stuff in too, though. So I'm saying we can verify that at the September whatever meeting.
20th, yeah.
Yeah, is it okay that you go ahead and advertise something?
Oh, so you would want, that meeting would be where we get authorization to go forward and publish an ad?
I would assume, yeah.
What are you advertising? What venues do you use for that?
Passenger Transport's weekly newsletter or bi-weekly newsletter from APTA, the job board at Compto. Also Transit Talent, yes, absolutely. There are a couple of digital ones out there. Mass Transit and Metro Magazine also have job boards. So, I mean, we advertise in all those usual places.
It just placed one of our employees, past employees.
Mm.
Yeah,
Well,
to a
someone
seat.
did, yes.
I've had the opportunity to interview him prior to, what, a couple of years back, what, longer than that.
I think it was 2018, I'm pretty sure.
He was very impressive then, and I think he is now.
I've made it. I've made it to get that endorsement from Mr.
What else
Bush.
you need from us?
I don't really think I need anything else. That's the most important thing, is just, talking to the people whose perspectives that you feel are most important. Because the rest of it, I mean, we have a standard ad format. I don't want to minimize the value of talking to individuals, because we always pick up interesting nuances when we have the stakeholder interviews. But I think that we also can come forward to the board in September and say, we have enough for you to be able to launch this ad and start allowing people to apply and be vetted for the job.
So I didn't go through the first process. I wasn't, I wouldn't, I don't really, it don't matter to me if you go talk to people, but I also know that if you guys are experts in this field, like you just said, you should be able to we should be able to give you some stuff and you can pull together.
Yes.
And put together a nice advertisement that would conjure up some type of interest.
Absolutely.
But maybe talking to people would, I guess add some, may help you get to know us better as you're talking to candidates going forward in the future.
Yeah, it's that personal kind of stuff.
Well, it definitely reinforces being, inclusive of all the parties. And it's something that it's usually a feature of a CEO search. I think that, after I come back and provide you a summary of what we discussed today, and I am able, at the very least, between now and the 20th, to speak with the board members, those that are on your list, that alone, and Ms. Clark, we can absolutely do that. And get that accomplished. We should have everything ready by the 20th for you to say go.
All right. Well, I don't want this to run off past 3 o'clock, so how many candidates for, I would assume we are a mid-sized transportation organization on the East Coast. How many applications? What do you suspect the interest would be?
I think that a minimum of 20 people who would be, who would meet minimum qualifications.
Yes, 20 serious candidates.
Yeah, and then the short list that we would give you, and again, that we want you to use us the way you want to use us. I've had some boards say, give me 5 finalists, 5 semifinalists, 5 shortlist people for us to look at. We had a system out in Utah where the board consisted of 3 full-time individuals. They were actually on site, worked at the agency, and that was the whole board, just for the UTA, for the Salt Lake system. And they started off saying, well, you know, we don't want you to go too far pre-vetting because we kind of want to take a look at what comes in. So we gave them a short list of 10. And they looked at the short list of 10 and they said to us, well, it's okay if you give us 5. And so we did 5 and we went then down to 3 and then they made the selection from there. So generally, when we do a briefing book, we give you a short list of 5 and we typically will have interviewed 15 to 20 people for you. And then there's a fringe of people who won't meet the qualifications who will also apply, but of course, they wouldn't.
Okay. Well, can you get with Yvette, please?
Sure.
You know, you guys, Yvette, if you and Christian can exchange information so that human resource directors, we have each one of the directors from Chesterfield, Richmond, and Henrico are all committed to help in this
Wonderful.
process.
Okay.
So I think you need to be with them, and we'll get you the list of people to talk to.
Great.
Anybody else have anything else before we adjourn? All right, well, thank you, sir, and you'll get us some notes or something, and we'll get the process started.
Wonderful.
Yep.